How's it going, everyone? Sethphir here, and we are back. The open beta is finally over. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun, but it is done. It is no more. What will we possibly do until the game comes out? I don't know. Maybe some Naraka or something, but we'll figure it out. But it was a blast, honestly. My company, Eternum Eternal, huge shout out to them. We did so many good things in the beta. We went to a high populated PvP server with a lot of streamers and good guilds on it. We went to Valhalla and we killed it. We got 3 territories. We held all of our territories the entire duration of the beta. We were the first person in our faction, first Marauders, to claim a territory on the server. And we did a lot of great stuff. We had a lot of great interactions with community members and other guilds and even other Marauder faction guilds. And so it was a blast. It was a great time. And I wanted to set down and kind of full recap that open beta experience and just kind of all the things that we saw. So I'll touch briefly on everything. I believe I made it to like level 45 or 46 in the open beta, which was pretty good. I stopped there because I didn't want to push much further. I didn't see any point to push to like, 50, 60. Like, it probably wouldn't even be possible with the limited amount of time that we had. All I wanted to do was get in and check the depths dungeon, really, and see if the main storyline expanded after that. Turns out, no, it wasn't in the beta as well. I was really hoping it would be, but it's the same cutoff point as the closed beta, so I was hoping to get some more lore and more main storyline information there, but unfortunately that was not the play. But I just definitely wanted to sit here and talk about a few things because we did see a lot for the open beta. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what weapons I thought were really strong just at a first glance, and I'll do a detailed video on that later. I'm going to talk about like the PvP scaling because that's been a hot topic for everyone, and I know everyone's been like, "Oh man, the scaling, it's killing me, and I don't like it." And yeah, trust me, I'm with you there. It's there definitely needs to be some balance for these things, so we'll discuss that. We'll also just talk about like high pop servers and how they've been playing out. So people that were afraid of queue times and things of that nature. So yeah, we'll get to all these things. So I guess we'll start with the high pop server since that's a basic thing. So we'll take a look at that. And it seems like high pop servers seem to be pretty good. Honestly, Amazon has stepped up their game in terms of server settings and performance. The servers appear to have more slots available. There's less queue times. I know some people got stuck in like a 20-minute queue, like a 15-20 minute queue right on launch time. But other than that, it wasn't very big. After the first day or so, that queue time went down a lot. There was pretty much no queue, and or if there was, it was like 3 minutes or something. So just, go grab a coffee or some water and come back and you're logged in the game. And this was on a pretty popular server. We had a few streamers on here. I think we had was Josh OG and Tally and some other people, and we also had a bunch of like really sweaty big guilds that had like 1,000 people, 500 people, and yeah, it really was not bad at all. So no worries there. Honestly, I would encourage you to pick a higher populated server, maybe not the most highest if you don't want, but pretty up there, because I do know some people that picked some low pop servers, thinking that the queue was going to be bad and stuff, and then it wasn't, and then they were also on a server where there's not much going on, right? And that's never the greatest. You don't want to end up in that situation. So there does appear to be server groups, so those may merge in eventually if you do end up going on one of those servers into a more popular server. So at least there's hope there. So that's my insight on it. Take it as you will, but that seemed to be my perspective from it. We got into the game, and I wanted to test a lot of things. I wanted to test some of the patch notes, right? Because we saw a lot of interesting changes. We saw elites are stronger, elites do more damage, dungeon mobs are stronger, dungeon mobs do more damage. We saw siege weapons doing more damage in the wars and things like that. So there was a lot of huge balance changes. And, we tested this. I went to our Amarine Shrine. That's the first dungeon in Windsward. That was really fun. It was harder, yeah. So some people were getting their butts whooped by Simon Gray. He was definitely a Super Saiyan version of himself as he was before. Don't worry though, it's not too hard. Our group managed to kill it in one shot. So if you are a pretty competent player, you should have no issue with this. It was a bit harder. We had a guy that died during it, so that was definitely a change. So it's nice to see that difficulty level, that challenge going up a little bit. I know some groups struggled a little bit on it, but with some good planning and some consumables, it should be no problem, easy breezy. The other dungeon that we checked out was Starstone Barrows or Obelisk. That one was actually bugged. The storyline was bugged, but we managed to craft a tuning orb ourselves by farming. And we went inside, and that dungeon is so much better. The lasers are fixed. It's so good. You can actually see them now. And the dungeon was fantastic. The boss was pretty cool and challenging at the end. So that was nice to see. I also did the Depths dungeon, which is the 45 dungeon again with Captain Thorpe as the main storyline thing, and we did defeat him. It was harder than before, but again, it was not that hard. We wiped a couple times, but we managed to get him as well. So the difficulty on the regular mobs was up. They're a bit more threatening. They have more health. It takes a little bit longer to deal with them. And it's kind of cool to see that. In exchange for that, the expeditions were giving better drops. We saw an increase in the rewards through expeditions. So that's always nice to see. So harder difficulty, better rewards, always a good thing. So that was pretty much it for that PvE side of things. Other than that, really, like, we'll talk a little bit about the leveling process here, because that's probably a thing to note. So we saw the nerfs to town boards. Yeah, those definitely affected the leveling process. We saw buffs to certain things like elite mobs, so that made it harder to do like AoE elite mobbing spots, but it was still possible. They still gave a lot of XP and weapon farm, so that's really good to take note of, as well as like good potions and gear and consumables. So that was definitely a great thing to do. Like in a couple of my previous videos, I talked about the level 25 farm. That's still a thing. That's really good. The level 35 farm was not, it didn't seem as good, but there was a better 35 farm in Brightwood. There's like some island there, so I'll point you guys out to that here in a later video and kind of just show you like the new updated leveling path. But I am going to make like a full-on leveling guide just to get you guys covered. So I'm hoping that we'll see some patch notes before launch, so I'll adjust that leveling guide if they do make some more changes. But from what I've seen based in the closed beta and the open beta, I have a pretty good idea on how to quickly get, well, maybe quickly or efficiently get to level 60. And I'll be sharing that with you guys so that you can use it to save yourself some time, and also make sure you end up at 60 with the right materials, the right gold, things, make sure you're not missing out, right? So these are a lot of important things. The leveling process was definitely better. We kind of got through that level early. You hit the dead zone before you can do Amarine Shrine. The dead zone's like level 18 to 23. You just have to tough it out and do like regular missions and whatever PvP missions. It's kind of rough, but it's just a gap. So it forces you to do a combination of things. Then you can hit Amarine and kind of ride that up a little bit and do some other things around 30 with like corrupted rifts when they start spawning in due to people taking towns and cool things like of that nature, right? So the leveling process seemed, in my opinion, harder. Like it's going to take longer for you to get to level 60. Before I got to level 60 in like 3 days and 12 hours playtime total. I'm expecting it to take me 4 to 5 days playtime total at this rate, just judging on what was happening within the beta. So that's probably one thing to take a look out for. So I think it will be a bit more difficult, but if you're a more experienced player, you can obviously shave that time down. That reference was just for like old me. New me, I know a lot more, right? So I might still be able to hit it within that 3-day time span just because I know more things right now. But we'll see how that goes. Town boards are still solid. I'll have a big town board guide coming up. Huge town board guide, because town boards and professions are going to be a nice way to level while you're doing things. Like, it's got a 30-minute timer, so it looks like it's best to do that and then go do an Amarine dungeon or go do portals or go do Elite Farm for a bit till that cooldown comes back up. So if you're timing it around that, you're going to make use of it, and you can still use the town board to level. It's not nerfed to oblivion, don't worry, it's still decent. So you can still make use of that. So those are some nice things to see. Other than that, I saw a lot of cool weapon things, so we'll kind of go into that category. The rapier seemed to be smoothed out a bit. It had a lot of nice movement improvements to it. The flesh seemed to kind of like slide you across the ground rather than halting you or stopping you at the end of it, so that was nice to see. And a couple other pretty interesting things. Some of the mage talents were actually working this time. That's awesome. I remember the Ice Storm Gauntlet used to be buggy and mess up a lot. There was still a few issues, so hopefully developers can take a look at that. But the mage weapons do need some love. I saw a lot about like the Great Axe and Life Staff. Life Staff healing seemed to be about the same. It's still really incredibly strong, probably the strongest thing we've seen in the game. So life staff users, yeah, definitely you're gonna want to consider that, and that brings me into a discussion about meta. Actually, I think the meta is still roughly the same. It's before we saw massive healing meta where healing's just very strong, right? It's so strong that you can't kill somebody that's just healing themselves. And the same was true here. Like even with the adjustments, how they like, tried to force healers into light armor and nerf the healing and stuff. In doing that, they also buffed some of the other talents, like one of my company members pointed out. That were fixed on the light staff, which increased the healing again. So all the buffs, all the nerfs that they did were just counterbalanced by the actual talents just working properly again. So it didn't seem to do anything. Like Lifestaff user can still put down Sacred Ground, set in it, and just kind of laugh at your damage, right? Like, and so this is the issue. They really need to kind of tune this in and figure out a way to balance healing, because healing is incredibly strong. Great Axe still ridiculously strong. Like the damage scaling on this weapon just through the talents and through whatever it does, and its ability to like heat seek auto attacks. Like I don't know why it's got aim assist homing like auto attacks going in, but it does, and it's kind of interesting to see. So Great Axe still a very powerful weapon. Like would highly recommend. Probably one of the strongest weapons in the game. Hatchet still seemed to be pretty good with the movement speed and healing on there, although that healing was reduced a little bit, but Hatchet's still doing incredible amounts of damage, just ridiculous single target damage, and the ability to stick on something is insane. We did see a lot of I looked into bow a bit. It still seems just as powerful as ever. Musket just as strong as ever. Mage weapons were still pretty strong in AoE settings, maybe less so in like 1v1, but they didn't really get any particular changes, so they're just kind of in the same state that they're at, where it's just like, yeah, 1v1, you're probably not the best, but AoE is where you shine. So we still see wars being like heavily favored for those mages, as they will do quite a big impact. So yeah, you kind of want to pick your poison on that and what you want to play as. The rapier definitely seemed to stand out 1v1 this time. I don't know what they did to rapier, but even playing as intelligence rapier, it seemed to be better, like just in general. So it seemed to be scaling up and a bit more. I'm not quite sure on that, but it felt good to me. Like it felt good to play rapier fire staff. Even more so than rapier ice gauntlet for leveling, at least. For wars, I would still recommend the two, obviously, but you know how that kind of goes. But yeah, the weapons, they're definitely all pretty strong right now. Some of them a bit stronger than their counterparts and things like that. So I personally, I would like to see some way to deal with healing, some way to deal with Great Axe users ridiculous damage, and some of those sorts of that. But we can probably get into that here in a little bit. As you can see, yeah, some guy just comes up to me, level 10, hatchet, just chop, like takes literally 3/4 of my life in like 2 swings. I'm like, oh my god, get this man away from me. And it's crazy, right? Like I'm actually surprised that this was in the clip. I didn't know it was there, but like you can see, like that's insane, right? And he runs away because he knows he can't catch up to me just due to mobility wise, right? Like with light armor, he doesn't have light armor, so he can't get up to me. But I think that raises another issue, is like people running away a lot in PvP. It's needed, but it also is annoying. Like the weapons need to be balanced first before you can do something like adding a lot of slows and roots and stuff. And there is roots on the hatchet. He probably just doesn't have it at this level, because if he were to use the back attack leap, he would root me in place for 2 seconds. So that's a way to stop people from getting away. But I know some people have been talking about that a bit. But yeah, we'll kind of dive into that. But that's pretty much the summary for weapons. The PvP scaling is something that we'll kind of touch up a bit. I did a video yesterday on it, but we'll do a small TLDR. So basically, what happened in the closed beta is that people were scaling a lot more with their low levels. So like level 15 players were pretty strong. And I won't say they're the most strong in the world, right? But when you hit a level 15 player as a level 16 player, they would actually just kind of take less damage than hitting a normal level 60 player. So it was weird to see that, right? And then you have the flip side of that, which is right now, where a player that's like 5 levels above another player would just do a tremendous amount of damage, and you're like, wait a minute, like that's not right. So both of these versions were not the greatest. I would love to see a middle ground, and good tuning on that. So that's just going to be up to Amazon. The ball is in your court to kind of get a balance on that before launch. But something in between. Like here's what we need. We need new players to have a chance when people are griefing or ganking. But we also need the ability for being level 60 to actually matter, the time you spent to matter, because it's an MMO, right? Like if you can get to level 60 and get all the stuff, and it doesn't matter, some guy can make a fresh character and he's just as powerful as you, it's like, well, why did you even level up? You might as well just set at level 9 and practice dueling the whole time. And that'll be that's a weird dynamic. So we need a balance between the two of them, right? We don't want low B players dying horribly to high level players. We just do not want this. And we don't want high level players feeling like their progress is worthless. Those are the two extremes, right? So we need a balance in between, and maybe going something for like reducing the level of the player within these zones if they want a PvP flag down to a certain level. Like that would make a lot of sense to me. So looking into some other avenues and stuff like that. But hopefully everybody's putting feedback on the forums. Go ahead and do that so that Amazon can take a look at it. And that's the best way to get your voice heard, right? Like talking about it with your friends and being upset about it. That's good. It's good. But taking the time to fill out feedback on the forums will get your point to the developers. And that's the best thing that you can do. If you want to see a change, get active, go up there and do it, right? So go ahead and keep that in mind. So that was pretty much what we saw with that. But all in all, we did see like a last touch, which was wars. Wars were so smooth. They were so smooth. The networking, the coding was buttery smooth. It was great. No one was lagging. It was perfect. Which was a huge improvement from last beta. So great job on the networking guys from Amazon on that part. Everything looks really nice in the 50 versus 50 wars, and I did a lot of them, or I did as many as I could in this beta, but it was definitely really nice to see. The wars, too, we'll talk a little bit about siege weapons. Siege weapons, way too powerful right now. I don't... That's... it's interesting, but I kind of like... It's hard to say, like... What happens at level 60, right? We haven't seen that. At level 60 in a war, do those siege weapons still do the same damage? It's difficult. And what I would say is the main offender was probably the cannon, because they seem to have buffed damage, but then buffed the cannon damage on top of buffing the normal siege damage for all weapons. So cannon got like a double buff. So people upgraded cannon to like tier 2 and tier 3, and it was just annihilating people. Like they were getting 90% of their life in one hit or something. But it could just due to the fact that we are a level like 30s or 20s out here, and we're getting shot by this like supposedly in-game scaling cannon, which does make sense. And if that's the case, I'm okay with that, as long as at 60, if I'm wearing armor that's decent, I don't want to be one shot by a cannon, right? Like I would expect that cannon to do like 40% of my HP, right? Like I would expect it to do that. That would make sense. Like if I got hit with a big cannon blast because it's a commitment and it has ammo and they targeted me, I would expect it to do like 40% of my HP and maybe push me back, right? Because the cannon does have that kind of stun there. And then things like that, like the repeater and stuff like that, they definitely should be doing damage. I think the repeater was actually okay. It didn't seem too bad. Like if someone focused you down, you would die for sure, but Like they had to specifically target you out, whereas like the can is just like they hit a clump and then they just killed like 10 people. It's like, whoa, okay, that's a little powerful. But there definitely needs to be a balance. So like I don't know the fine tune on this, so I'm not gonna call for a nerf. I'm just gonna say, hey, at level 60, maybe look at this and see how it plays out. So like maybe don't adjust it yet, but at level 60, see what's going on, because we don't want people to be one shot like that, but we don't want the flip scenario where no one can defend their territory because the siege weapons are just so bad that they don't do anything, right? Like so that would be and I like the siege weapons because it gives players that aren't necessarily like, you know, the most mechanical, sweaty PvPers a way to impact the war. And I like the idea of this like siege mechanism. Like it adds more of a strategy element to it. And I think that's what wars should be, is strategy. Whereas like where the hardcore mechanics should shine would be in places like Outpost Rush, like, you know, the 50 or the 20 versus 20, and, you know, hopefully in the future if we get like 2v2, 3v3s, and 5v5 like dual arenas or something like that, that's kind of the hope. That would be the place for like hardcore mechanics to shine. I think the war is more of like a community and a guild thing, where like strategy should be rewarded, first and foremost, with like the items and the way you interact with the war. So yeah, this is definitely a bit of a lengthy video, but I did want to talk about all these things. I could touch a little bit on professions, but professions seemed nicer. I did wish there was a bit better thing with fishing. I know they said they worked on it, and it does seem a bit better. You do seem to get a bit more fish oil, a bit more fillets and things like that. But we need more. We need more, and we also need, like, we need more ways to get more fish oil, because the town board requests are requiring so much. Cooking ingredients are requiring so much, and we just don't get that without spending, like, you know, sitting there fishing for 5 hours. And like no one wants to fish for 5 hours just to do, like, you know, two quests. Like it's just insane. So like all that stuff needs to go up, or just lower the amount that you need for things, like increase the yield or something like that. So fishing needs to still be adjusted and looked at. A lot of the cooking ingredients are still locked behind high level areas, and you can't create them. You have like level 20, level 30 cooking ingredients that want you to go to Ebon scale to get some particular material. It's insane. Like all of this stuff should be readily available as a pickup in the starting zone if you're expecting players that are cooking skill level 20 to cook something. And that maybe this is not exact, you know, don't quote my entire thing on this, but it's just the feel that I get. Like, you know, I go up to the thing and I'm like, well, where the heck do I get lemons and sugar and all this stuff? And it wants me to go to these different zones that's like specific for this type of material. But like new players can't be expected to ask to do that. Like, why am I going to 5 different territory zones just to get my cooking up to level 40? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And so what ends up happening is the only thing you craft with cooking is like light rations and like travel rations. And it's like, all right, that's it. Call it a day. Like I can't make anything special. I can't do any of the town boards because they all require these like crazy ingredients that it's like, man, I don't even know where to find these. It's just nutty. So there just seems to be too few of that stuff. So, you know, that needs to be adjusted for sure. Um, a lot of the other professions seem all right, like doing town boards and stuff like timber and potions and things of that type. It seems decent. The potions are a little off still. Like Arcana is one of the bigger offenders actually, with like the type of mana pots and regen pots and bigger health potions other than weak potions, requiring these ingredients that are like so scarce and so few that you just can't turn these things in realistically. So like Arcana needs a better way to level. It's just so bad. Like you're just stuck. You're stuck making weak health pots and like essence pretty much, like, right, you can't do anything. And it's just such a slow creep compared to like other things where it's like armor smithing and weapon smithing. I can go get some iron and wood, it's easy, boom, I turned it into the town board, I level up my weaponsmith, armor smith, it's sailing up, I'm feeling good about it, I can actually make a weapon that even matters. But although that does mean to be looked in a little bit, because a lot of times with these professions, by the time you get the materials to actually make something of your skill level, you're already on the next tier, and you're just like, well, that was a waste. So like leveling or like crafting weapons only seem to feed to level your skill and not to actually have you make something useful at the point in which you would need it. So all of this stuff could definitely be improved. And I would love to see this quality of life come in with just the professions and smoothing everything out overall. But I would say that I do like the difficulty of professions. So keep that in mind. Like I like that it's hard, but I want to see equality on the board with the missions and some of the ways you get stuff, because let's be honest, like leveling weaponsmithing is so much easier than leveling cooking, than leveling arcana for that matter. Like arcana's, oh, that's so bad. But anyways, hopefully we can get some adjustments to that and kind of smooth it out a bit and make some of these ingredients and things that they're asking for more plentiful in the starting areas, so that players can actually make something that matters and not have to go to, Ebonscale or all the way to Brightwood just to get some small cooking ingredient to do a level like 9 quest. Like that's just insane. Okay, so that was pretty much professions. I think that covers mostly everything. We pretty much talked about all aspects of the game. The open beta was fantastic. I'm super excited for the 28th. I'm ready to go. I got my game plan down, my company game plan down. We're going to be making tons of content. I recorded so much footage in this beta. Well, I don't even know what it was, like 500 plus gigs of video, just all recorded and ready to go. And I'm going to be basically making tons of videos coming up here soon. I got guides on the governor's POV for taxes and things like that, so that you could check out the way that looks. I got guides for territory cards. I got guides for leveling. I got guides for professions and everything in between, right? So and especially specific weapons, because I know a lot of people ask for that. I got guides for keybinds coming. I know that was a high request, and just kind of like settings within the game and everything, just to help you get everything locked down and smooth so that you can be playing the game to the best of your ability and just kind of get that in sorted for you. So stay tuned for that for sure. We got tons of things coming up. And once again, as always, I appreciate everyone that spent the time to watch my video. The support has been amazing for the channel so far, and definitely do really appreciate everyone that has subscribed, liked, or hit the bell or anything of that nature, because that goes a long way for the channel. It definitely makes it feel good, right? Like I like doing this content because I like seeing people get something out of it and enjoy it, and that's a really good thing to see. So once again, thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next video, everyone. Make sure you have a good day, and we'll see you on the 28th.